As you watch the next 2 segments on the Middle East, keep these questions in mind.
What kinds of goods were traded in the Middle East, and how has trade changed?
What are some ways that people living in the Middle East choose to travel?
Merchants have been a part of life in the Middle East for thousands of years, and trade has been, and continues to be, a vital part of the history and culture of the region.
What do we gain by trading with other countries and peoples?
We gain resources that we don't have and they do, and we gain trust between the countries.
We also gain cultural knowledge, I guess. We can get all sorts of different things culturally.
Ideas, cultures, influence.
Diversity of products. Lots of different things. I mean, you wouldn't be able to have bananas if you didn't trade with other countries.
We gain oil from other countries and gas.
Art, you can get the way they make food.
We gain like the materials and foods and things that we can't make with our own natural resources here in America.
Southwest Asia has been an important crossroads for trade, religion, and culture for centuries. Though it is a large region made up of many countries, 3 cities have been important throughout history: Jerusalem in present-day Israel, Aleppo in Syria, and the port city of Istanbul in Turkey. From as early as the 4th millennium BC, the beginning of recorded history, merchants traveled the route between Jerusalem, Aleppo, and Istanbul in groups called caravans. Though all 3 cities are on Asia's western border and near the Mediterranean Sea, travel from Jerusalem to Aleppo and then to Istanbul could take several months. For thousands of years, caravans traveled to Jerusalem in order to buy wood and fuel for light and heat. The forested areas around Jerusalem were filled with trees, and tree traders wanted to buy as much wood and fuel as they could and sell it to people in their own countries. Much of Jerusalem's outdoor market or bazaar is little changed from the days when traders from Aleppo bought citrus fruit there. Traders paid for fruit with gold or exchanged them for vegetables and sugar beets, which could not be grown in Jerusalem. Merchants in Jerusalem still sell fruits and vegetables in the city's bazaars, but today's merchants also sell modern goods like computer software and electronics. Traders from Jerusalem and Istanbul would travel to Syria to buy wheat in Aleppo's bazaars. They usually paid for it with gold and silver, but merchants also traded cotton, olives, and vegetables for the wheat. Aleppo's bazaars are still important places for trade. Olives, wheat, and cotton are some of the most widely traded goods in Aleppo. But modern-day Syrian merchants also sell crude oil to countries in Western Europe and the Middle East. Caravans had a long way to go from Jerusalem to Aleppo, but some traders went even farther than that, to the great city of Istanbul on the western coast of Turkey. Traders from Jerusalem and Aleppo in the 14th and 15th centuries traded gold, wood, and fruits for items found in Istanbul's Great Bazaar, especially Turkey's famous tiles and carpets. And while tiles and carpets are still sold in bazaars today, merchants also sell grain and fruit to countries in Western Europe. Traders from Jerusalem, Aleppo, and Istanbul have been buying and selling goods for thousands of years. Trade still goes on in these ancient cities, but today's trade routes stretch across the globe.
Did you know, as late as 1908, salt was one of the most valuable trading goods in the Middle East? More than 20,000 camels were needed to transport this precious spice.
King Abdullah II of Jordan is one of the youngest monarchs in the world, and his country has some of the most diverse landscapes in the Middle East. As more people begin touring the Middle East, you can bet that Jordan will become a major stop for travelers everywhere.
What are the pros and cons of a monarchy?
One of the pros definitely is that you've only got one person making all the decisions.
The good thing would be that there wouldn't be any conflict about the decision, though.
On the other hand, you also got only one person making the decision.
I don't think that one person's decision should affect an entire country.
The person would only reflect the views of themselves.
I don't think it allows for much change because you're kind of born into your role. So if someone who doesn't have the chance to be a king but has all these great ideas and no one will ever hear them, so I think they lose all these ideas that other people might have.
There's a reasonably good chance you have no idea where this is. It could be Utah, Arizona, or perhaps the Gobi Desert, but it's not. This road leads to one of the more exciting journeys you could ever take, through an ancient land with some of the greatest archaeological treasures and surreal landscapes known to man. There's also a reasonably good chance you don't know who this is, but he's uniquely qualified to be your very special guide on the adventures you'll find within a place relatively few Americans have discovered. He was born and raised here, served in the military, and has flown, dived, climbed, trekked, and camped throughout the entire country. And so, while he may know this land better than just about anyone, he's not just any tour guide. He is King Abdullah II, and you are invited on the royal tour. It is only fitting that our journey begins at Ragadan Palace, in the center of Amman. His Majesty has invited me here for a brief chat before setting out on our adventure.
How you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Have a good trip?
A long trip.
Long trip.
But I'm looking forward to it, though.
Excellent. Glad to have you here.
Thanks. You're taking me on a little journey, I understand.
A long one.
Born in Amman in 1962, the eldest son of the late King Hussein and his British-born second wife, Toni Gardner, also known as Princess Muna, young Abdullah was raised in an environment of both privilege and hardship. Wanting him to learn the ways of the world, King Hussein sent Abdullah off to boarding school in the United States for his junior high and high school years. Upon returning home, Abdullah promptly began his military career, commanding both tank and attack helicopter units and rising to become a major general and head of Jordanian Special Forces.
Unbelievable.
Abdullah took risks in his personal life as well. He was a champion rally car driver, skydiver, and avid scuba diver. But it was a beauty named Rania who would really capture his imagination. A Jordanian woman of Palestinian origin, she married Abdullah in 1993 and would soon bear him a son. But the young family was in for a shock. By the late 1990s, the world watched with sadness as King Hussein contracted lymphatic cancer and traveled several times to the United States for treatment. But the cancer proved to be incurable, and in January of 1999, knowing he didn't have long to live, King Hussein co-piloted his own aircraft home to Jordan for the very last time. I remember he came off the plane and kissed the ground.
Yes, and prayed his thanks to God for bringing him back safe and sound to his homeland.
Standing in the reception line on the tarmac was King Hussein's brother, then Crown Prince Hassan, who had held the reins of power in the king's absence and was expecting to soon inherit the throne. But in a surprising turn of events, the king announced that he was changing the line of succession, and the crown would instead be passed to his eldest son, Abdullah.
It's a shock when somebody says, you know, I want you to have this responsibility.
All right, clear on the left, clear on the right.
Our royal tour of Jordan begins in the king's private Black Hawk helicopter. Okay, so lots of heads of state have helicopters, but this is different. King Abdullah actually flies this one himself.
I learned how to fly helicopters when I was in the army. I'm using it probably as much as a car. I mean, with the pressure of work, the best way of getting around is by helicopter.
Here I'm taking you to perhaps my favorite spot in all of Jordan, the Wadi Rum or the Rum Valley. My father loved this place. He used to take us here when we were small children.
I recognize him from the film Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, it was filmed right here in Wadi Rum. I think it won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture in '63. It was a year after I was born. Lawrence of Arabia loved this pink desert and these craggy peaks. He called the Wadi Rum vast, echoing, and godlike. And so I think this is the best place for you to get a glimpse into what many people feel is the soul of Jordan, the Bedouin. The Bedouins are nomadic tribes that have roamed the deserts for thousands of years, and they're still here today, living down there in those tents made of goat hair. You can see them right below us.
Wow, check it out. There's even a camel caravan down there.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Let's head down.
Peter, we call these guys the Desert Patrol. They used to be an army unit back in the days of the British Empire, but today they operate as both a border patrol and as a desert police force.
Getting up on one of these things, well, at least for me, not very pretty. It wasn't a whole lot of fun for the camel either.
They're it. And there's certain parts of Jordan that the only way you can patrol and secure is on camel.
And they enforce a whole different kind of law here, don't they? It ranges from somebody misappropriating a sheep to
smugglers trying to cross into Jordan with illicit goods.
Oh, really?
And though they're part of the police, they're probably the toughest and most disciplined unit in Jordan.
And they're the last of a dying breed in a way.
Well, I don't think that they'll ever die out simply because of their historical significance. But most importantly, when it comes to understanding the Bedouins and dealing with Bedouin way of life, these are pretty much the most efficient way of dealing with those problems.
We're progressing at a relatively slow speed right now, but if these guys wanted to take off, they could take off.
No, these things can move if you want.
But there are even quicker ways of getting around Wadi Rum. Microlight aircraft, ultralight, will give you a bird's eye view of Wadi Rum.
And quite a rush as well from the looks of it.
Absolutely. Adventure travelers have only recently discovered this place, and it's suddenly become a very hot ticket. I used to love to fly these things before Palace Security got involved. But if you want even higher altitude thrills in Wadi Rum, you might want to try skydiving. Once again, they won't let me jump anymore. But that doesn't apply to the rest of my family, thank God. My younger brother, Prince Hamza, can't wait to jump.
The king isn't jumping for reasons of security. I'm not jumping for reasons of sanity.
It's really spectacular, and coming down through the hills is amazing. Really makes you realize how small you actually are in terms of the bigger picture.
Want a more dramatic aerial view? Ballooning over the sands of the Wadi Rum is nothing short of spectacular. But then, there's the sand itself.
Peter, there's one more thing I want to show you. As you know, people have been coming to Wadi Rum for years for the tremendous rock climbing, which is really world class. But now there's a hot new sport that's becoming all the rage, and I think you'll find this very amusing.
Sandboarding.
That's right.
You just find a giant dune, grab your board, and trudge up to the top. There are no ski lifts here or anything of that sort, but you'll get a very, very good workout, but it's really worth it.
Your Majesty, have you tried sandboarding?
Not yet, no.
Well, okay, it might be a bit harder than it looks. As for me, I'm sticking to my ship of the desert.
Wadi Rum has many special memories for me, so I like to come out with my friends and my family and be able to camp and get away from the everyday problems of life.
Peter, it's getting late, and I've got quite a day planned for you tomorrow.
Such as?
All I can say is I'm taking you to a hidden city that was lost from maps for thousands of years. Now let's get some sleep.
Peter, this morning we're heading towards the lost city that I mentioned to you last night. It's Petra, and it's nestled in the heart of the mountains, and it's one of the most stunning sights in the world. And we're following in the 2,000-year-old footsteps of the camel caravans that brought spices from India on their way to the Mediterranean. Peter, just put yourself in their place. It wasn't an easy trip. They would creep along step by step for 2 months or more across this parched expanse, searching for water or trying to protect their cargo from bandits. For thousands of years, travelers have walked through here anticipating their first glimpse of the wonders of this ancient city.
And you would come all the way through the gorge here, and every time you turn, you'd think it was happening, and then all of a sudden, you come right here, and there it is.
This is what you got.
Amazing.
It always takes your breath away. I mean, look at this amazing sight. And it just fills you with awe of how the civilization over thousands of years ago managed to be able to do something such as...
Well, the engineering to be able to carve this into solid rock.
Amazing. This is a temple for an old Nabataean king, an old tomb.
But they call it the Treasury building.
They do call it the Treasury because over 100 and 150 years ago there were rumors that a lot of jewelry and gold was left in the big urns that were up on the top there. So people used to shoot at it. And that's,
I see the bullet holes up
you
there.
see the bullet holes.
But no treasury came down.
No.
And no treasure either.
No treasure. But Hollywood found gold here. You might remember that the Indiana Jones film, The Last Crusade, starring Harrison Ford and Sean Connery, it was shot here. And in that film, the Treasury was the temple that possessed the Holy Grail.
Yeah, I remember it well, actually too well. Now, I'm not so sure I want to go in there. I mean, the place collapsed on them, didn't it?
Yes, but I will personally assure your safety while we're inside.
Wow, look at that. Look at the ceiling.
Yeah, and you can see the huge crack of one of the major earthquakes.
That is a huge crack.
Really was part of the downfall of the Nabataean Civilization.
Once you get inside, it's a whole different experience entirely, isn't it?
Yeah, the acoustics are absolutely amazing.
Your Majesty, you're right. The acoustics are incredible.
It is simply amazing. I mean, the sounds just resonate off the walls here, and you can almost imagine the sounds of ancient travelers. It has such a hauntingly beautiful sound. At the height of its greatness, before the time of Christ, approximately 30,000 people lived in Petra. People known as the Nabataeans, living in the middle of the desert. They were incredible architects, as you'll soon see. They had little water, so the Nabataeans cut these aqueducts into the stone and funneled the rainwater into fountains and baths and indoor reservoirs. Petra became a classical oasis, a regular stop on the trade routes, and the Nabataeans grew very, very wealthy. And as their wealth grew, so did their vision for Petra. So they built these giant tombs for their kings as lasting tributes to the greatness of their civilization.
It was a very sophisticated culture, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. They even had live theater. Entertainers would perform for thousands of people in this ancient amphitheater. Petra was so splendid, in fact, that the Romans took it for themselves, and later the Byzantines. But somewhere around 800 AD, the trade route shifted, and it wasn't long before Petra was all but forgotten. It became nothing more than an ornate home for Bedouin shepherds, and over time was mostly covered up by blowing sand. As a result, Petra was lost from maps for 1,000 years. In 1812, a Swiss explorer disguised as an Arab rediscovered Petra, and the outside world has become enamored with this place ever since. Today, Petra has been recognized by the United Nations as a World Heritage Site, and in the last decade, millions of foreign visitors have seen its splendors with their own eyes. And Peter, while we're here, I want you to see one of Jordan's holy shrines, the tomb of the prophet Aaron. But I gotta warn you, it's a 3-hour hike straight uphill.
We made an unscheduled stop along the way, an isolated police command post where the officers invited us in for tea. Your Majesty, when you have those rare moments like today, when you can come up here and enjoy the hospitality and climb up to the top of Aaron's tomb, what goes through your mind?
It's just great. It used to remind me of how my life was before the changes, and be able to just get away from all the officialness and all the protocol, and just be able to sit with people and friends and just talk about the weather and about jobs and families. It reminds you of what you need to be able to do, and it just gets you back in touch with the people.
It puts it in perspective.
Very much so, yeah.
A 3-hour climb?
That's right.
Great. Whatever happened to that cool helicopter of yours?
Come on, Peter. You know you need the exercise.
Your Majesty, are we there yet?
Almost there. Still got a ways to go. That's what we're aiming for.
Oh, boy. Okay. Oh, thanks a lot. Your Majesty, how many steps to the top?
226.
And what step are we on now?
29.
Why are you laughing? Stop that laughing.
Almost there. Still got a ways to go.
Yeah, that's what you said a mile ago. Majesty, what does that sound?
That's a verse from the Holy Quran, and it says, "In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful."
We made it. Now, Your Majesty, what is the significance of this tomb?
Well, this is the Prophet Aaron's tomb, Moses' brother, and it's revered by Muslims, Christians, and Jews alike. And the most important thing about Jordan, really, it is the only place where the prophets Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad came at one point or another through Jordan.
Wow, and now we made it. All the way, right?
It's only halfway.
What are you talking about?
We still have to get down.
Why are you laughing?
Flying helicopters allows me to forget all the problems. I forget all the problems of state and of the problems that we're facing, and just to relax and cleanse my mind, and it's very therapeutic. Peter, on this leg of the journey, we'll head south from Petra. I want to show you my family's favorite getaway spot in all of Jordan. It has an altogether different look from all the other places you've already seen.
Hey, I'm up for anything as long as I don't have to ride another camel.
Not unless your camel can swim, because I'm taking you to Aqaba, on the Red Sea. It used to be an old Turkish and later a British Army outpost. It's only been in recent years that Aqaba has started to be developed as a true resort destination. And to make it more attractive, we turned the entire area into a duty-free zone.
Your Majesty, what's always amazed me about this place is how short the distances are between the countries.
That's right. From right here, it's a short walk to Israel, which is right over there. And we can see Egypt and Saudi Arabia. Jordan is right behind us. Aqaba has miles of accessible beaches and beautiful reefs. The Red Sea is widely regarded as having some of the best scuba diving on Earth. What do you say? Should we have a closer look?
Wow, what a great day. I'm okay. So where are we going today?
Well, we're going to head down south towards the Saudi border. There's some beautiful dive sites there, and the one that we're going to go to today is the wreck.
Tell me about the wreck.
Well, the wreck is a Lebanese registered ship called the Cider Pride that caught fire in the bay about 12 years ago.
We got to this particular vessel, and the crew were already in their suits with their suitcases, and we realized it was an insurance ploy. They were trying to sink the ship for insurance reasons. We actually managed to put the fire out and save the ship, but it was so badly damaged from the inside it couldn't be used again for commercial uses. So we got the permission to clean the ship out and make it safe for diving. We sank the ship to build a new coral reef that would bring more sea life and improve the environment of it. It takes a few minutes to get down to the wreck. The ship's lying on its side in about 90 feet of water.
always go to check to see how much coral has grown and the abundance of sea life that's now developed around this particular reef. This wreck is a lifelong adventure for me. Every time I return, there's always something new to see. I really hope that this is something my children can appreciate long after I'm gone. Diving in the Red Sea, you're never quite sure what you'll find. We're even trying to create a reef out of old army tanks, which some might think might be a much better use for them. There's a lot more fish there than there's been a year ago. A lot more color down there too.
Soon we headed back to Aqaba, and His Majesty let me pilot his yacht. How cool was that? Hey, who's the guy on the jet ski?
That's another one of my brothers, Prince Faisal.
Is everyone in the royal family a daredevil?
Well, let's just say we like calculated risks. But speaking of family, I've got some people I really want you to meet.
His Majesty, a dedicated family man, will often commute, even for a few hours, just to see Queen Rania and his children. And while they love the beach here in Aqaba, he has a special treat for the family.
You guys hold it together. Yeah, there you go.
The king has promised the kids a ride in this old Chinese motorcycle and sidecar. Hello, Your Majesties.
Peter, this is my son Hussein.
Nice to meet you.
And this is my daughter Iman.
Hi. I think I'll just flirt with her for a while.
The baby is Salma, and this is going to be her first motorcycle ride.
No. Okay, she's getting a bit bored. Let me take it out.
Here's Her Majesty. Oh, how are you? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
It's nice that it's safe enough here in Jordan that we can do these things without being totally surrounded by security. I just want my family to have as normal a life as possible.
While the king remained with his family, I headed north to one of Jordan's most popular ancient sites. About an hour's drive north of Amman lies the ancient Roman city of Jerash, once known as a city of 1,000 columns. It's often called the Pompeii of the East because of how well it's been preserved. In its day, it was one of the greatest provincial cities of the Roman Empire. Dating back to the time of Alexander the Great, Jerash was part of a group of 10 important cities of the region that became known as the Decapolis. Today, you can wander among the old baths and temples and walk along the columned streets. There are beautifully preserved mosaics inside one of the Christian churches, built around 400 AD. One of the best views of Jerash is from the top of the amphitheater, Believe me, it's worth the climb. There's also a festival of culture and arts here every year that has become one of the premier international showcases for music, dance, and poetry from the Arab world.
A couple hours north of Aqaba by car or a few minutes by helicopter is a surreal landscape. It's the lowest point on Earth, 1,300 feet below sea level. And Peter, if you stop to examine the snowy white shoreline, you might be surprised with what you'll find. The water has a strange, oily consistency, but it does have special healing properties. But without a doubt, it's the most buoyant body of water in the world. It's the Dead Sea, so named because it's so salty and absolutely nothing will grow here.
Not even fish?
Nothing. After your morning swim in the salty sea, you have to rinse off with fresh water. So I'm taking you nearby to the spectacular Mujib River for a little whitewater adventure. It may not look that impressive from up here, but from the ground, it's absolutely awe-inspiring.
Your Majesty, where are we going?
We're going straight up that canyon right there.
And where are we?
Well, this is the Mujib River, the Jordanian Grand Canyon. So
I mean, it's really beautiful.
It is beautiful, and it's probably one of the most beautiful places in Jordan. However, for the extreme adventure traveler, it is very treacherous terrain.
Now, I heard you say the words extreme adventure. So, Your Majesty, I'm going to take your word on that, and I'm probably going to hang back here.
Okay.
Have a good time.
See you later.
You got it.
I think Wadi Mujib is the hidden jewel of Jordan. I first came here when I was in the Special Forces many years ago.
Traveling down this canyon where you know very few people have been through. It was covered with cobwebs. There were birds nesting on the ground. We could go and pick them out. They weren't used to people. The fish in the stream you could pick up with your hands.
So you come around a corner and the hair stands up on the back of your neck because you see this rock formation or site that you've never seen before in your life. And it does take your breath away. And there's certain designs in the rocks that you wonder how that happened.
Canyon itself is really magical place to trek.
We're trying to make our way to a stunning waterfall. This is one of the places I trained when I was a young officer.
It's a hidden place and it's difficult to get to. It's accessible, but with prior permission, simply because it's such a wonderful location. It's sort of one of the best kept secrets of Jordan. It's arduous, and one has to be careful, especially in the springtime and the winter because of the rains.
Here you must also keep a watch out for falling rocks. As you can see, this giant boulder fell and lodged itself between the canyon walls.
the waterfall, of this hidden canyon, was really such a beautiful part of nature that took my breath away, and it was probably the most dramatic location I'd ever seen in Jordan. If you look up, that's my little brother Hashim up there. Now we just have to get him down. Piece of cake. Hashim is in the special forces and he really gets into this stuff.
Oh, it's no big dramas. It's actually a lot of fun, and it's no big deal. Anyone can rappel.
Well, Peter would have had a rough time if he'd come up with this. But no, I mean, whenever you do anything adventurous like this, you always got to think of safety and common sense. So you got to make sure you got the right equipment. People know what they're doing.
Good fun though.
Well, your abseil was fantastic. No, disappeared straight into the waterfall.
That was a tease.
Great, but after 2 hours of this is great.
It was getting late. Time to head back.
Indeed, our time was growing short, but we had done so much in just 5 days. We'd flown over the entire country. We went scuba diving in the Red Sea. Then we went mountain climbing. We experienced Petra. Then it was the Dead Sea. And of course, just a little camel riding. Now it was time to head back, and this time, thankfully, by a slightly faster mode of transportation. Your Majesty, I want to thank you so much for taking an incredible amount of time out of your schedule to show me Jordan through your eyes.
Is that it?
Your Majesty, the show's only an hour long.
But Peter, I can't show you Jordan in just an hour. There's a lot more I want to show you.
You've been given all the information. Now it's your turn to discuss the questions. Take a moment to talk about the following.
What kinds of goods were traded in the Middle East, and how has trade changed?
What are some ways that people living in the Middle East choose to travel?
If you'd like to learn more about what you've just seen, go online or check out these books at your local library.
As you watch the next 2 segments on holy cities, keep these questions in mind.
What makes a city a holy place?
Why do some people think it's important to travel to holy places?
There are many places in the Middle East that hold a special significance for religious people. Destinations like Jerusalem and Mecca are a constant draw for religious pilgrims from around the world.
Do you make any pilgrimages to a special place?
Every other year, because I am Jain, it is an offshoot from Hinduism. We go to India, we go to a special city called Palitana.
We go to a camp in California, like as a family.
Every Christmas, my family and I go down to Florida and we visit my grandmother, and we've done it since I was like 3 years old or something.
My parents often go to religious places in India where they're able to renew themselves spiritually.
Sometimes my family, to remember my Aunt Gladys, because she was really close to us, we go to the cemetery, so just to remember her and give her flowers and pray.
It's really important in our family to stay together, and since they live far away, it's important for us to go and so we can stay close to them because we love them.
The State of Israel is located in the Middle East along the Mediterranean Sea. It's bordered by Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. Although it's smaller than the state of New Jersey, Israel is home to over 6 million people. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. It is also the spiritual home of three of the world's major religions: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Jerusalem holds enormous importance for all three groups, and all three have claimed the city as their own. Jerusalem's Old City is made up of a diverse collection of people and architecture. There are Jewish, Muslim, Christian, and Armenian Orthodox sections all crammed into a single square mile. But outside the Old City, Jerusalem's inhabitants live in a modern city with high-rise buildings, supermarkets, businesses, and schools. Over the past 3,000 years, Jerusalem has been conquered, destroyed, and rebuilt many times. Jerusalem got its start some 6,000 years ago when settlers proclaimed that this mountain, Mount Moriah, would connect them to their God. Villages, and then a city, slowly grew up around the mountain. In about 1000 BC, King David conquered the city and made it the capital for the tribes of Israel. He also brought the belief in a new God, Yahweh. King Solomon built a great temple on the holy mountain. 3,000 years later, the mountain is hidden under a platform made of stone, the Temple Mount. Although the temple was destroyed long ago, Jews from all over the world still gather at the remnants of the wall that supported it, the Western Wall. Also called the Wailing Wall, it's said that God's presence is particularly strong here. Countless messages and prayers to God are packed between the stones of the wall. For Baruch Kaplan, these stones lie at the center of his faith.
For me personally, I can touch my relationship with God to the extent that I can touch these stones, because these stones have been standing here listening to the prayers of mankind for thousands of years.
Directly above the Western Wall stands a magnificent Islamic shrine. The Dome of the Rock was completed in AD 691 when the Muslims ruled Jerusalem. The dome is built over the top of Mount Moriah. Islam proclaims that this was the spot where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven to speak with Allah and the 10 great prophets. Shireen Al-Araj is a Muslim born in Jerusalem and has been coming to the Dome of the Rock since she was young.
I like the feeling that everybody's coming here, like all the Muslims from all over. We have the same feeling, we share the same thing. I mean, everybody's praying, everybody's thinking, everybody's charging himself, everybody's cheering up. If you go around, you'll find a lot of people crying.
About 400 yards away is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This site is important to Christians. The church was built in 1149, and some say it is the location of Jesus' tomb. Inside the church lies the holy rock of Golgotha. Christians believe this rock is from the hill where Jesus was crucified. Bishop Nicephorus is a Greek Orthodox clergyman who has served in Jerusalem for 30 years.
By seeing these places, touching them, we strengthen our faith. With our imagination, we can feel the emotions and the feelings of the people that came before us.
With all these competing religious, cultural, and historic claims to the city, it's easy to see why so many people feel so strongly about Jerusalem, why they've been fighting for it over the centuries, and why they're still willing to fight for it today.
Did you know? Today Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, but in AD 135, the Roman Emperor Hadrian proceeded to convert Jerusalem into a Greco-Roman city, with a circus, an amphitheater, baths, and with streets conforming to the Roman grid pattern.
Jerusalem is an important city for Muslims, but Mecca is perhaps the most important religious site for their religion. Each year, millions of Muslims from around the world come to Mecca on a pilgrimage called the Hajj.
The Middle Eastern kingdom of Saudi Arabia lies between the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. The country is more than 1/5 the size of the United States, and it is bordered by Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. Most of this country is a harsh desert where extreme heat during the day can turn into freezing cold at night. But each year, millions of Muslims travel to this country in order to complete a special task called the Hajj. The Hajj is a 3-day journey or pilgrimage to the city of Mecca, the holiest city in the Islamic religion. The Prophet Muhammad founded Islam in AD 622 and taught that people should visit Mecca at least once in their lives. Today, men and women from Asia, Africa, Europe, and even the United States travel to Mecca each year in order to walk around an ancient symbol of their faith called the Black Stone. In the Islamic tradition, the stone was given to the first human being by God after the creation of the world. Muslims on the Hajj must circle the shrine where this black stone is kept 7 times. This shrine is called the Aqaba. The first part of the Hajj begins at the Al-Haram Mosque in Mecca. Once inside, the pilgrims take time to pray before going outside to circle the black stone. When the pilgrims are close enough to the black stone, they can either kiss it or reach out and touch it with their fingers. After the pilgrims have had the chance to touch the black stone, they must kneel to pray in the direction of the Kaaba. Many pilgrims find time to sacrifice an animal while on the Hajj. This sacrifice helps them remember how the biblical hero Abraham made sacrifices to God for his religion. During the Hajj, pilgrims also take a traditional stand against evil by throwing stones at 3 pillars in the city of Mina. The pillars symbolize evil, and by throwing stones at them, each pilgrim is able to fight against evil in the world. The Hajj is a journey that Muslims take because of their faith. It is both a form of worship and a way to come together as members of a common religion.
You've been given all the information. Now it's your turn to discuss the questions. Take a moment to talk about the following.
What makes a city a holy place?
Why do some people think it's important to travel to holy places?
We hope you've enjoyed this assignment discovery journey into the Middle East.
If you'd like to learn more about what you've just seen, go online or check out these books at your local library.
That's a wrap for today, but tune in next time as we explore some of the events that shaped modern Europe.
We'll find out how World War II devastated an entire population in Poland and split not only a city, but the whole country of Germany in 2. Then you'll hear some remarkable accounts of the final hours of the doomed ship Titanic. And finally, you'll see how some Eastern Europeans are rebuilding their lives after the nuclear disaster of Chernobyl and the man-made disaster of war in Kosovo.
Join us for Turmoil in 20th Century Europe, here on Assignment Discovery.